Hey, ground crew. It's late and my eyes are really sore from too much computers. But it's the middle of the night and I'm still going. No, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit further on the graphic. I kept seeing this graphic in my head about how to explain it, and so um, mm, I'll share screen. Hang on, where are we? It's taking forever. There we go. Excuse me. So I did this graphic that looked like this. Did it very rudimentarily, right? And I just went in briefly. Um, Everyone is sort of starting to ask more questions, which is really good. Um, and everyone is going to be at different places. Okay, I've got to do my disclaimer. Everything I do is my intellectual property. It is my opinion that I have the right to have. Um, if you don't resonate with it, let it go, move on. And it's just my yeah, it's my interpretation of the way I perceive things. So it can either help you or not. I'm going to be quite honest and quite candid with my own journey with a lot of these things, and maybe you can benefit from that. Excuse me, I haven't spoken all afternoon. I've just started talking now. So let me go over to this one. So we have all been born into guardianship, right? We didn't give consent for it. They didn't ask us if we wanted it. We were born into a trust that the Vatican created called Unum Sanctum 1302. There's three main trusts that they came up with. You've got Unum Sanctum 1302. You've got Motu Proprio. What was that? Maybe I've got 1568 in my head. I don't know. And then Sesta V, Sesta QV, you know, the birth certificate, 1666. Now, Motu Proprio was collapsed in 2010, which means a lot of the Pope's businesses are now liable. I don't know if you all saw this last week, a hospital in England was served. Um, yeah. And so we have been born into slavery. And they keep the slaves really happy by Netflix and, you know, distractions and stuff so that people won't know. And on public holidays and, you know, strange rituals like Christmas and Easter and yeah, I can't even watch anything without seeing the propaganda now. I do think that that girl that got taken in Western Australia was completely rigged, to be honest. Make it look like they're doing something. I'm a bit cynical. And I swim down the deep end of the swimming pool. So this here, this big circle represents essentially the Unum Sanctum Trust, the matrix, the illusion that we live in. And rule of law has actually been around since 1658, 59. Look, I could get a few dates wrong. It's 3:30 in the morning, so I'm a little bit tired. I've had a long day. But in this matrix is, you know, corporations, you know, you as a corporation, your block letter name, you know, where they have captured, you know, like the birth and the doctor and the parents. There's a pair of renting people and child. And, you know, in 95 in Australia, John Howard got the wobbles and he added the word body politic to the meaning of person in the legislation. I do believe they kind of came a little bit unstuck and they didn't want to tell anyone really what was going on because they said people would lose faith in the judiciary. So they kept it a secret. And then again in 2016, they had a really huge rally. I mean, still 5, 6 times the size of any kind of protests that have been going on lately over freedom of speech. That really kicked up. And they even stepped out of Parliament for a couple of days to discuss the equity of the people. You know, so we've been really close to really kind of cracking the system. But I do honestly believe, and this is why I do these educational videos, is that, you know, I know people that have successfully, you know, fought the council, sued the police, put commercial liens on them. I know, I hear the stories, and they all use slightly different tactics, you know, and they keep it a secret. And so the best thing we can do right now is teach everyone this stuff and get everyone doing it and protecting themselves and setting up their trusts and really understanding what direction you're going to go in. So there is a big difference between the colour of law and rule of law. There's a big difference between law and legal. And essentially, you want to be in rule of law. I'll discuss that a little bit after. But, you know, everyone sort of goes, okay, so how do I get out of the matrix? Well, you know, if you want to be completely out of the matrix, that means that you are not reliant on anything to do with the system, that you live completely off grid. And that requires, you know, some setup costs, and that requires income of your own independence. And I've been saying to people for a long time, you know, try and not be reliant on the system. Try and come up with things that are going to bring in income yourself. And so, you know, how do I protect my property? How do I save my super? All these kinds of things. Get these questions all the time. And so I'd done a video on discussing the difference between, you know, you've got the House of Lords and the House of Commons, and then you've got that system that sits in the middle. Now, America's on a presidential system, England's on a Westminster system, and Australia is a hybrid of the two. And I kind of go, depending on what your existing knowledge is as to how you perceive the world, like it's like an onion, you know, you just keep peeling the layers off, and no one knows everything, all right? And I find, you know, that person will know a lot about that, and this other person will know a lot about that, and you know, you get all these sort of pieces of information from all over the place. I tend to think I'm quite good at, you know, stringing things together for people, you know, and so you know, what direction you go in is going to be based on what your situation is in your life. Do you have debt? Do you have a mortgage? You know, do you have a partner? Do you have kids? Do you have money in the bank? Do you have super? You know, all of these things are all going to impel you to move in a certain direction. So classically, private people have got more protection. So this is public, right? This is called the public trust. That's the unum sanctum. In Australia, it's called the Futures Fund. It's $227 trillion that Peter Costello sits on. It used to be called the Consolidated Revenue Fund. That was the public purse strings money. That was pounds and shillings, and that was how a government... God, I'm so sorry. Have a good cough and get it out. That was how our governments are meant to run the country, like public servants, right? And you've got to remind them that they're public servants. Rule of law is really pure. I really like rule of law. It's really not all of these things down the bottom, but I'm going to tell you what the things are down the bottom as well. So there you go. There's a bigger graph. I think I can probably just blow these up. Oh, there we go. No. So, doing it right now. All right. So you got, how do I protect myself? Right. So classically, what everyone has sort of done for the last, I don't know, 50, 100 years or whatever, how long it's been around, was do their private filing. So the trust, your birth certificate, all that money, right? It's probably worth, I don't know, 300 million or something on each trust. And then your parents, that's still, you know, accruing money. And your kids, that they're all, you know. So you would classically do a filing on the UCC. The UCC is the Uniform Commercial Code. It's in America, and you essentially file 4 documents up there: a security agreement, a private agreement with you and your dead entity, a hold, harm, loss, indemnity, and you might as well do copyright your name, and you'll file them at the UCC. And it's about $35 a filing. we've figured out how to do all four in one now. And so if your name's copyrighted, no one can use that name. But and so you would use, okay, so one train of thought. So the UCC, you would file that there in America because we're an American company, corporation, whatever. And then you would file it in Australia under the PPSR, which is the Private Property Security Register. Now, I noticed that the PPSR was changing as we were filing stuff. So they were responding to what we were doing. But, you know, if you had a lot of debt or a mortgage, that might impel you to go in this direction, because that would impel you to learn the bills of exchange, those kinds of laws. So a promissory note is actually money. And so you learn how to discharge debt. So I've got a couple of friends that have discharged their mortgages. I spoke to a friend today that went, yeah, no, those security agreements aren't working anymore. They don't work, because the thing is, right, the public, which is them, the matrix, don't recognize private people within this system. And this is their system, right? Yeah. People are still wanting filings, but, you know, I mean, even Russell, Postmaster General, disqualified the UCC in, 2004. He disqualified it for fraudulent grammar. And he highly advises all postmasters to remove their UCC filing, because he goes, Treasury are going to come after you with this one. They're not going to let you get away with it. So while I still do have some filings, I can easily pull them at any stage if I need to. And then, okay, so then you've got common law. So I was discussing this, that common law was just, you know, Donald the Brave, you know, 400 BC a year. It doesn't really protect you from anything. You know, it's essentially sort of still under the Vatican, you know. You've got common law courts in England, and we all registered our birth certificates, didn't we, when it all came out? And we've got common law courts Australia. And I'm still connected to common law courts. I still speak to them. They do weekly meetings, and so it's great community. So if that's where you're at in your learning curve, awesome. I think everyone kind of needs to go through and understand all of these processes in a way, and that's just part of your learning, and it's part of your growth and development, you know. And so, you know, common law is do no harm, basic offer, contract, you know, agreement, basic, maintain your contracts, you know, seek remedy, those kinds of things. Essentially, your trust was there for you to offset as a remedy. So if you harmed someone, that's what the trust was for. The money was there so that you could create remedy. In America, you've got States Assembly. Now, I've met with these guys a couple of times going back last year. I was hoping it was going to be a meeting of the minds, but it really wasn't. These guys were ripping bongs on the Zoom, which I was just like, can't you turn your camera off? I'm like, I don't. It's not big judgmental or anything, but I had people join me in that Zoom that are really not into that at all. And I was just like, ooh. That's not, I've got nothing to say, but I did say I was going to be opinionated in this one, didn't I? States Assembly's Anna von Reitz. Now, I just don't resonate with that woman at all. You know, like older women that kind of, they can't commit to being grey-haired, and they can't keep up with their hair dyeing, and it's sort of like they've got 4 inches of grey and then some colour at the end, you know. And I did try to watch her quite a few times. I think I've got to 37 minutes and she was still rabbiting on about snow on roofs and stuff. I was like, that's 37 minutes of my life I can't get back. Can you just get to the point, please? So it kind of really, you know, I think they've really cornered that mid-belt America, like that sort of, you know, people that sit at home watch their televisions or something in the evenings. I don't know. They're very organised. Look, I mean, the population of America is much bigger than ours. What are we, 26 million? What are they, 400 million, something like that? So they're very organised. They've got really good ID cards. That's why I was meeting with them. I wanted to see how they were rolling out their IDs, see if we could kind of replicate something here. So, you know, a QR code on the back of their ID. If police stop them, they can scan the code. Whoop, up comes, you know, all their stuff goes up on a public record. I've got all the documents. I could probably put them up on the website. 15 documents. They're called recorders. And Kim Gogan. Now, I got slightly seduced by her for like about a minute, only because the videos that they were doing really drew you in emotionally. The music and Tank was crying. And, you know, you said have a little listen, and she's just way too days of our lives for me. And too much ego, and all of her light language and all that, you know, and her galactic history is not 100% correct. And so I was just like, this woman's talking out her ass. She's been around for a bit. She talked about the banking. I tried to get Russell to talk to her, and he didn't want nothing to do with her. So I was like, She's got IMF. She's an IMF woman. And she's turned back up in a couple other conversations as well. But she was running something in Australia. I'm being very cynical tonight. They sort of appeared in Australia. My friend goes, have a look at this. It's really good. They're giving out money in that. And I went, yeah, right, okay. I said, am I that much of a slave and a cynic that I don't believe anyone's going to be handing out $10 million? I'm sorry. She's like, no, you've got to put in a business idea and they'll grant it. So I was just like, yeah, whatever. And I was just like, and I tried to do some meetings with them. And again, the narcissism was killing me. I cannot tolerate it. We did one meeting, and one guy, an hour and 20 minutes discussing about whether he would put a document up on Google Docs or not. I was just like, oh my God, I think I'd rather smash my face against brick walls. I hung in the background because they needed quantum contracts writing if they're going to be moving big money. So I just sort of sat in the background. Well, I pulled out that group in the end, but I think it's gathering some steam in Australia. I don't know. And I just said, they're idea harvesting. Like, do you seriously think you're going to put all this work in? I said, great idea about organising the business plans, but don't hand them over to her. Anyway, yeah, she's not really making much of an impact, is she? Okay, and then you've got the common law. The common law is the 1611 King James Bible. So, you know, I made the mistake, which they did deliberately, that I thought that was a real religious book. And I've studied every other religion apart from this one. But I've got a Bible now, and I try and read it. I need to read it with a magnifying glass. It is actually a book of laws. It's the book of instruction before leaving Earth. And so all of the laws come from 1611 KGB and the Coronation Act, which is not really used, but that's where God's law, rule of law, you know, 10 commandments, you know, basic shit. So that's the common law, and that's common law. Private, organic. Okay, in Australia, we've got, here it is. Oh, no, that just looks like shit now, doesn't it? Here we go. Organic Commonwealth. Now, there's a guy called Keith Charles. I quite like it. It makes sense because we know the Organic Commonwealth is unoccupied, meaning they all resigned, didn't they, in 66? So those offices are still vacant. So, again, circle back round. I will explain things to people based on what they know. So if I only just discovered X, Y, and Z, then I'm just going to talk about that because you don't want to overload people. I make people glaze over really quickly. And it's really apparent they're not following federal law. And there's a very grey area of law right now. Well, the police don't know the law. And most lawyers I know don't even know the law. Like, seriously, it is an absolute joke. It just needs to all go, to be honest. So, you know, yeah, okay, let's pull them back to the 1900 Constitution. I believe we need to do this in layers. You know, move people. Like, you can't take someone from here and put them over here because they're missing all this learning curve. So you've got to kind of like, okay, well, let's come here, and you've got to pull them back this way to over here. Now, rule of law is down here, right? We're over here. So in that process of all that learning, I mean, I can understand rule of law quite well. And even I get caught up in this, and then I've got to get grounded back into rule of law again. I go into the logistics of how we're going to get there. You don't have to worry about that so much. So the website commonwealthcustodians.org is Keith's website. It's like $10 a month. It's got lots of video up there and forums and chat rooms and stuff. And it's basically giving you instruction on how to go into the ABN registry in Australia. It's free. And if you've got an ABN already, I've had one for a long time as a sole trader, that you go back in and re-register it and update your details, but you register your ABN as an unincorporated entity, doing benevolent service as a charity, and you use your last name or register a last name as Jacob, Israel, Yeshurun, or private, because they all mean Israel in the Bible. And Israel is not a place on the ground. Israel is a place in your heart. And that ties in with the common law stuff. And he's wanting people to occupy the organic space. And so once you've registered that ABN, then you can go register it over on ASIC. And so you're registering your unincorporated name. So essentially you can be in the organic kind of and dip your toe in the corporate, like you can still talk to them and communicate with them. And Keith's got letters back and forward from Treasury and places like that. So they're acknowledging his office position. So a lot of people talk about stuff and don't do. And so it's very important that whoever you're talking to has actually done stuff, and not just once, right? When someone says to me they've done well in court, I'm like, that's called luck. Sorry. Twice is a coincidence. 3 times is a pattern. 4 times you can start bragging. And even if it's 2,000 times, I'll go, how long ago was it? Right, okay, so we're in quicksand right now, and things are changing by the minute. And they are not following due process, and they are not following any laws at all. I was in court today, and they've kidnapped a 14-year-old girl. Someone called up DCP, said the mother was raping the daughter. So they went straight in there and took that kid. No proof, no evidence, nothing. And you go to court, and DCP have got you by the balls. And they've just put her off another 2 weeks, because then they get 2 weeks worth of money off her trust. This is the game they're playing. It's harvest time, right? Those camps they're building right now, they've already built them. Serco have built them. Serco is the company that runs Centrelink. Serco is the company that runs prisons. They need 100 inmates a day, and they're going to get 107,000 each off their trusts. And if they get minors, yet they get 550,000 a year. And they don't even have fences at these places. They've got basketball courts and swimming pools. So soon everyone will be homeless and broke. And so, a fine or whatever, or you're not doing the jab or whatever, they'll whack you in these camps and get money off your trust. In the end, they'll go, no point even leaving. I've got a bed and some food. Might as well just stay here, innit? Yeah, that's their plan. And then you realise, wow, this has really got to stop. This whole thing has to stop. You've got the Postmaster Avenue, which I really got into and spent quite a bit of money studying, and learned syntax and write quantum grammar and understand quantum grammar. But I did learn postal mechanics, which is, I will use postal mechanics on all of my other venues in the way that I learned it as a postmaster. And, met Russell and, did quite a bit of work with them. Fell out with Rachel. So it's back to way, isn't it? And I don't really see anything happening with that venue, to be honest. They have they've contracted with their information rather than expanding. So that would tell me that he's been paid off or something. And a lot of elites know this stuff, right? And so Russell Gould, if you don't know about him, he is head of the UPU, the Universal Postal Union. The post office runs our world. The military go in through the post office and out. All corporations are registered at the post office. He is chief judge at the Supreme Court. He's Vatican key holder. He owns the copyright on the syntax. And there are a lot of people in the world that call themselves Postmaster Generals? Nah, Russell's Postmaster General. All those Kishons, Mark Christopher Kishon and all those Hugh Noy and all that lot in Australia. No, mate, they're all frauds. They're all just out to make money out of you. I'd give them a wide berth if I was you. So, I mean, here's the deal, right? What is the point of getting a live claim if you can't use it? I mean, you can make your own live claim and stick it on the wall, but if you actually want to use it, meaning I want to make a claim against someone for fraudulent use of grammar, say for example, it's not a free ticket to just get everything for free. There are certain contracts you're going to have to honour. But extortion bills like, you know, fines and driver's licenses and all those sorts of things, you can syntax the document and then you'll do what's called amicus curiae against them, which is kind of like suing them. It's called friend of the court. And essentially, you know, you will pull them up on, and that's a $25 million fine and up to 30 years in jail. That gets filed at the bank, Russell's Bank, and the majority of that gets paid back out to the UPU, but you get 2.5 mil out of that. And so that's what I think Russell's kind of been doing, is making his coins to have them banked. I've seen the banking website, he's been doing some work on it. And look, if the bank opens, then, you know, my attention will be drawn back into that venue again. Because I've got a few amicuses that I've filed. They're just sitting on my desk. So let's see what happens. I mean, he did meet with Trump and stuff. I don't think you can get live claims from Russell anymore in Australia. And now I think Muriel is now charging freight to get the live claims back. So, you know, it's money, 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 isn't it? Everyone wants to make money. I mean, we all got to live, I know that. But the other one's customary rights. This is also really interesting, and I also adopt some of these principles as well. I'm kind of in all of the venues, and I just noticed the other day, and you get told don't mix your venues, right? I wrote a document that was like, oh, bit of that, 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 and bit of that. And I got the giggles. I posted it off anyway. Customary right is like understanding your coat of arms. So look up your last name and see what your coat of arms is. Do some history on your lineage. I mean, they broke our tribes up to weaken us, made us think that having babies and marrying our cousins was wrong when they've been doing it all along. And there is no evidence or proof to show that having a child with your cousin, you're going to have distorted children. I mean, obviously, you don't really want to do it with your brother or something, do you? But I mean, they did that in Egypt, didn't they? And so it's not that bad. I mean, there's as much chance of other things happening. You know, you keep your bloodline strong, don't you? So customary rights is like, you know, tribal stuff, or even coat of arms is customary rights. And there's a guy in Melbourne. Oh, what's his name again? Can't remember his name. He ran a workshop on how to utilise your customary right and coat of arms properly. It was in Melbourne. I didn't go to it. So, you know, and there's little like postal mechanics you can learn with your customary rights. So over here you've got DSD, or Divine Sovereign Decree. That is doing tons of paperwork. It's actually not that cheap to do. I mean, they were running a workshop. It was like $999 to do a workshop. Pounds too. So that would have been, I don't know, $1,600, $1,700 Australian. You do all these documents to essentially claim your soul back from the Vatican, because, you know, they took it in 1302. And then you pay all this money to post these documents all around the world. Now, you've got to remember, posting international from Australia has to be done express now, because I waited nearly 4 months for a letter registered to get to America, when I should have done like super express, pay the extra money. And that's like all up $60, $70. So then you've got like 8 to send. So then, you know, on top of the $999, you've got all this money on postage. And I did a couple of workshops with these guys, and you know, like meetings with them and stuff. And I said, okay, cool, you get your soul back, yeah, And so what do you do if you get a fine? How do you deal with that? And they were like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, okay, so it's useless then. It's not like practical. It's going to help you out to navigate, is it? You know, okay, how about I just say I've got my soul back, thank you. So it's kind of like declaring that you're living, right? And I was listening to another guy tonight that was talking about it. Or you could be born into the Amish. I'm not. I think that's all of it. So, all right, so there's all these options. So, you know, I guess if you've got a lot of debt, you might, you know, Postmaster, you can syntax your credit cards, get rid of them. Yeah, yeah. We've got our tribal stuff as well. I mean, essentially, all right, here we go. I'll talk about that in a sec. All right, so rule of law is all are equal before the law. Legislation requires consent. Everything in this world is a series of offer and accept, right? If you've got no choice, guess what? That's called slavery, right? If you are not offer, accept, right? If there's no offer, accept, and they just choose for you, that is slavery. That is the very definition of slavery. And the poor, the Workhouse Poor Lords Act of 1723. I mean, they've been making laws which are essentially the start of Centrelink, isn't it? It was parishes that used to run everything. So this stuff, this rule of law, again, it's been around for 400 years. We've declared a new jurisdiction under Crown jurisdiction. And a grand jury has been written up, and it's a beautiful document. And while everyone is faffing around down here with, oh no, that's my block lane. Oh yeah. So over, which one is it? Yeah. In the private, you would all, and sort of down here, you would be dropping your last name and calling yourself sui juris. So your last name is your trust, right? That's why they're trying to get you, because they get money off your trust. Like if you're in court, you could collapse your own trust so they don't make any money. And they go a bit white when you do that, because it's all a game. You play joinder, they get money. It's a little constructive trust in the courtroom. You know, police pull you over. As soon as you answer to your name, that's it. Joinder, bang, there you go. They've just made money out of you. Got your driver's license. As soon as they touch it, bang, contracted. So it's all about contract, right? And once all of this is gone, and we are over here with rule of law, we will still have trust and contract. Equity sits inside of these kind of cups, you know. So the rule of law stuff is the grand jury. That's the Australia trials. And we just hold them accountable. We go back to holding a jury. And we, the people, decide whether this person should stay or go. And there is and this is the website executiveorders.life. There are forms up there for you to report any kind of harm, loss, or damage. Something as even banal as, like today, I'm going to report a guy today and put him up on a public gazette. I went into the youth court and they wouldn't let me in unless I suffocated myself. And I said, I'm exempt. And they said, I need to see it. And I said, here's my postmaster exemption. Here's my Commonwealth exemption. No, we need to see your doctor's exemption, right? This guy. And I said, you know what, right? This is in breach of the privacy and the human rights laws. You know that, don't you? What is going on right now in our culture and our society is very, very dangerous right now. And he's, oh yeah, I know, it's really bad, isn't it? Yeah, like that. Took my medical and read it slowly, right? I didn't want to cause a thingy because I was in there for another reason, right? So I just let it slide. And I said, what's your number, mate? He told it to me really quickly. I didn't have a pen, so I came back to him and I said, you've been very noble, right? But I'm still going to report you because you're still in breach of privacy and human rights. And I said, your name's going to go up onto a public gazette. And as soon as I said that, his whole energy just changed, didn't it? Screaming outside, accusing them of human trafficking. There's also a human trafficking report up there as well. So if you've suffered anything to do with DCP, I know people are reluctant to put that up there because when they've got your kids, they kind of hold you at mercy. And you know how they talk about all these kids go missing, right? 100,000 or whatever a year. Where where are those people that lost those kids? Don't they say anything? Like, where are they? That's 100,000 families. That's 100,000 people directly affected by a child going missing. Are they reporting it? Why are they not on? We've got public domains now. Can't you put something up? So where are all these people and these kids that go missing? Like, I see a few. I know we've got quite a few Indigenous kids missing at the moment. Right now, people are probably just killing themselves right now. We had 3 kids kill themselves up in a tribe up in north of where I am. Anyway, so report harm, loss, and damage. Like, even if somebody asks you to put a muzzle on in a shop and then they turn you away, report anyone who's asking to see your private medical. We have to be the voices of reason right now, because while all those lose their heads, you know what I mean, we must stay grounded. And human rights are, we have a human right to, we've got a human right, a right to movement, right? Freedom of movement, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and freedom of belief, right? They are fundamental human rights. Right now, they're being breached really badly, right? We've been fighting for human rights. Well, I mean, 1688 Bill of Rights. That should indicate to you how many hundreds of years we've been fighting for these. I mean, Magna Carta 1215, they tried to take it away from us, got redone in 1297, and their response to that is to do unum sanctum and steal everyone's souls. So, you know, this fight is not a new fight, right? Then we've got the right to privacy, the right to safety, the right to life, the right to happiness, the right to water, food, shelter. You know, they've privatized law, they've privatized the world. You've got to pay for water. It says in our constitution you shouldn't have to pay for water. Not following that thing anyway. Anyway, the Constitution of Australia, which was written in 1900, UK, had all those changes and everything done to it without referendum. You know, that document should have evolved with the people, and it didn't. It got shelved. 1966, you know, they removed the crown from it. Right now, Queensland is the only state that still has common law in it. The rest of them don't. And so, you know, I'm still so shocked that so many people are just walking blindly through this, really. So I think we have to consciously just learn more, just become more knowledgeable, and just learn how to navigate, learn how to write a letter, learn how to do the mechanics on that letter, learn what contract is, what are the timelines on the contracts. You know, everyone is kind of going into that, oh my God, what should I do? How do I do the birth certificate, when rule of law is like, all of that's done. We're not playing that game anymore, right? The name is mine, right? And that money off the fund, that needs to be in the Consolidated Revenue Fund, and we need access to all of that, right? So I like rule of law, but it does take a little bit of a headspace to kind of get there. But I'm almost saving you from doing all of that other stuff, you know? And yeah, I'd like to think, you know, that there's all these good things happening in the background. I do. I'm 50-50 on Trump, and looking at life through rose-coloured glasses. But that shouldn't stop you from going foot to the pedal to the metal. You know, we're at a precipice right now, and wow, you know, you think of all these problems we've got in our society, like homelessness and all these pharmaceutical addictions and stuff, and you know, the myth that they can't fix those problems. They got the whole world wearing masks in 4 months. Come on. And all those people that put those masks on, they were like, ooh, if they complied to wearing masks, they'll comply to injecting a poison. And all those people say, "Oh, I'm not going to do it, not going to do it." Now they're getting squeezed now, innit? It's like I've lived on the smell of an oily rag most of my life, you know. I won't be controlled by money. I had a millionaire boyfriend. It's like, you can't buy me. Nope. So if you've got 3 investment properties and you're bitching about getting the jab, think twice about your investment properties, isn't it? Things are going to get harder and harder and harder. You know, if you can move in with your mum and dad, lucky you, because you're not living in a box in the parklands yet. So it's time to rethink, isn't it? And if everyone banded together, this wouldn't be happening. It's all those people that have complied, that have made this, your compliance is prolonging this nightmare. So you've got to wake as many people up as you can. And I know people don't want to talk about it. I was in a shop the other day, or something, and this girl shouted, her muzzle around her chin. I said, "Oh, I like the way you're fashioning your mask." And she goes, "Oh no, I've got spots all over my chin." I go, "Yeah, wait till summer comes. You'll have a tan line on your face." She goes, "Oh, I really hate wearing it." I said, and she would have been in her early 20s, and I said, "It's really bad what's going on, isn't it?" She says, "Oh, I know. I go, "Do you and your friends talk about it much?" And she goes, "Oh, no, not at all. No. We just don't want to think about it." I said, "Right, so it's not thinking about it that's not really going to stop this from happening, So I encourage everyone to try and, this needs to be on the tip of everyone's tongue right now. It really does. And find those ones that are like-minded. It may not be your friends. I simply couldn't be around people that actually believed COVID was real. No, this is still about your health, isn't it? And this winter, I mean, we're going into summer now, so it'll be very hot, and they're gonna fry us to death here. And then next winter will be the coldest winter you've ever seen, and people will be dropping like flies. So maybe time to get your hazmat suit. Check on those people that live alone. They could be rotting. Make sure their cat's not eating them, won't you? Anyway, I hope that helped. That was just a bit of an overview on like all of the venues. So they are considered venues, all those little balls down the bottom, circles. They're jurisdictions. They've got their own set of rules for each one. And just got to do whatever works at the moment. Not a lot is working because they're just ignoring everything. They just keep coming at you. So different problems, I will respond to those in different ways. Something might come in and think, "Oh yeah, no, syntax that'll be perfect for that. Deal with it that way." Because someone comes in, "No, let's run that argument with that one." But I have spent a good couple of hours this evening working on the website. I've stuck a load more templates up there. Addresses. Now these addresses are really hard to get. Let me tell you. In fact, I just watched a little video. JC was interviewing some guy in, I think he was like from North England, he was living in Spain, some strawman thing. And he was going, "Oh, guys, anyone in Australia got any addresses? Because I can't get any of them." And I was like, I might drop him an email, let him know. So many of us worked quite hard to find these addresses, and it was only through trial and error. Like, you send a registered letter off and it bounces back, or they'll go, "Oh no, this is not the office, this is," and then you'll get the proper address. So what you'll find on the website, like if you go to like a council or a government department, usually there's nothing up there. There'll be a GPO box. Well, you need a proper address, not a GPO box, because you want them essentially to sign the card, don't you? You want to pay a couple of extra dollars to, when they receive it, they've got to sign that, and then you get the card back in the post, right? So it's worth doing that, because I think most mail is sitting in warehouses. They stopped accepting letters from Parliament like a year ago. And especially now with the Australia Project encouraging everyone to write letters. And then with the Chinese ships off the coast, that means they're going to block the UPU, which means they'll be blocking the mail. So there's a few things going on at the moment. What was I going to say? Oh, the addresses. So what you'll find is most of those government departments, if you're lucky, and there's an address on the website, that won't be the address. There's another one, and it's been some good research to try and find these addresses. So I keep them on a file, and I've put them up. So I've just saved you a load of effort and time and worry by putting those addresses up. I just added a load of templates from Nick Patterson, and he's done some really good. Like I've printed them out for my son. How to talk to police, how document on you don't have to carry your driver's license, little things like that. So, and then a pile of emails. Like I've probably got a couple of hundred emails for Western Australia. Yusra gave me some emails tonight for Victoria. I put them up. I'll just keep adding when things come in. Loads of templates. Oh, my t-shirts. Please go buy a t-shirt. That'll help fund my insanity of working. Look at this, nearly 4 o'clock in the morning. Not sleeping much. The CMEs are killing me at the moment. Coronal mass ejections. I think that's it. If you've got any questions, shoot them down below. I want to do more educational videos and just make them easy to watch, but I've been talking too long now. I don't even know how long I've been going. All right. Must stop. Good to chat. And yeah, if there's a specific learning curve you want me to do or break it down, let me know. Like I say, I swim in the deep end of the swimming pool, so I forget what it is to go down to the shallow end, get out of the swimming pool, and encourage someone to get in the swimming pool. I'm just down the bottom, so I don't know what it is that's going to be helpful right now. Rule of law, go over to the executiveorders.life website, and this goes for overseas as well. Like I'm sure you could emulate this model because we're all under the same jurisdiction. And so Leith is amazing, Leith Masters. She's got lots of work behind her. She's done 8 audios. She's also a professional astrologer. So that third one. So if you go executiveorders.life, go to forms and gazettes, which is where the A1 form is for reporting harm and damage. Further down, you'll see, you just changed, inaugural grand jury. Go to that page, scroll down. The second grand jury we just recorded, and we all came public with it. We had some elders, and so we had, I think that Jakamara do Welcome to Country. Now, Welcome to Country is something our tribes do on opening, and then we were reminded that this was a creation by the government, and so they never really used to do Welcome to Country, but he did something else, and so he sang us in, and I think Otto sang us out, which was good. There's audio, so scroll down. There's 8 short audios that Lee's done explaining the guardianship that we're under and how we're in this situation and why we need to be under rule of law. And they're easy listening. You can speed them up if you want. Listen to them in the car. Encourage everyone to report. That will go on a public gazette. It's like the old days. That's how they used to operate. Public gazettes. We've also got public notice board in Australia. Jim Greer started that. And so, if you file a notice against Scott Morrison, you can put it up on a public notice board, or the David Walter document you can't take into court because it's been flagged, because it works. And you can just put it up on the Gazette and take that link and then submit that link into court. And that's how you get documents into court that they don't want in. Because people have been successful in court, they don't want to make it easy for people, do they? But you see, the courts are so corrupt now. Rod Culleton and the Freedom of Information, to show that they defaced the seal to the High Court in 73, so that all legislation post 73 is null and void. But you take it even further back, the Settlement Act of 1871, which was the Stamp Act that Trump and the Queen voided to move the gold back, that was voided, and that was when lawyers started going into Parliament. So everything post 1871 is null and void. Really, is that what they're saying? They're certainly behaving that way. And I'm told that Chinese ships are moored off the coast of South Australia, and that Sea Patrol, Border Patrol, whatever it was coming along, and the Chinese ship said, "What is your intention in this water?" And they were like, and they just went, "Go round," and so it made them go round. And they tried not moving, no. So the UN have taken over the waters of Australia. So if that doesn't wake you up, I don't know what's going to. Oh, what? little men with Chinese guns running around. Would that do it? I don't know. So what's it going to take? What's it going to take? Oh no, I'm just watching Netflix. Leave me alone. Okay. I would like to teach everyone how to privately prosecute. A few ways of doing that, but anyway. Good night, everyone. Sleep well, and I'll talk to you soon.